So, JR, can you tell us about how you got into art in general and also like tattoo art?
Yeah, sure. So, as an artist, I started really young. Um, my grandmother did a lot of art. Um, my grandfather was a draftsman. My uncle was the main inspiration, as he was actually the tattoo artist that trained me. Um, so tattooing actually ran in the family. And as far as me getting into art, I usually lived in big cities, bigger cities. So there was always a lot of graffiti around and um, heavy metal artwork, like album covers and stuff. That was a lot of the stuff that inspired me. So yeah, but it was mainly my uncle. I was always into it. I was actually put in group homes as a kid. So
Uh-huh.
one of the things they had me do was a lot of art therapy growing up. So that's
Okay.
really, I think, what sparked it. I had to draw all of these, feelings and whatnot. So yeah, that was the start, I think.
And then when did you get into tattoo art?
Um, so tattooing, I got my first tattoo when I was 15 years old. Went to my uncle, um, and I wanted a tattoo. I always looked up to him. He was kind of sort of my father figure, because my father wasn't around. So I looked up to him. He was the guy that I wanted to be like and hang out with. And so I went to him, and at 15, he gave me my first tattoo, and I kind of fell in love with it after that.
What symbol did you
I
get for?
well, so it's cheesy, I'm sure, to some people, but it's actually the Crimson Ghost, which anyone who knows punk rock or like kind of darker culture as far as music is concerned, it's like the symbol of the Misfits.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I can let me see. Yeah, the Crimson Ghost.
Oh, there
That
it
guy.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, you know, but I mean, again, I was 15 years old, and this is many, many years ago. So the Misfits weren't quite as popular back then. They didn't have quite the clout they do now.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I always knew that I would be into the band and into that kind of subculture of music. So I've never regretted it. It's still my favorite tattoo because it was my first one.
Yeah. It's like always memorable. I got a very small tattoo on my arm when I was 38. So it's like this is really small.
Oh yeah, right on.
Yeah, I want to get like a lot more ink, but like my dad is like not really into that, so I'm just gonna have to do it like on my own time when
Yeah.
no one's watching.
I have a couple friends like that. They
At
gotta
least
wait for their parents to croak
watching
before
this
they can get.
video because everyone knows I'm doing this podcast. So I keep thinking I'm just talking to one person, and then I realize everyone's watching it too. So, what did you say? Your friend?
Oh, I have other friends that like basically have to wait till their parents croak before they can get a tattoo. Like their parents
Yeah.
will probably disown them, kind of that kind of thing. So yeah, I get it. I understand.
Um, so what like themes or designs you specialize in, mostly rock, or you could do anything?
Um, that question's really hard. The tattoo industry has changed so much from when I started. Designs are so much bigger and bolder. The type of shading that's done is so different. Just the detail that people get in their tattoos now. Um, I come from a traditional background, so traditional work is more big bold lines, color, or black and gray shading, depending on um, what the client's looking for. But I try to really uh, kind of stay in my lane where I'm comfortable. And that's usually traditional, kind of neo-traditional, maybe a little bit more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not there, it's not like realism.
Uh-huh.
Illustrative, a little bit more illustrative.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've been kind of breaking off and trying to get into a little bit more of like fine line black and gray more recently, working on like portraits and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try to be able to do everything. As an artist, especially as a tattoo artist, the one thing that I don't want to do is be stagnant. I try to do it all, but the stuff that I'm really comfortable with, that if people really wanted to get work done by me is like more of the traditional, neo-traditional, kind of stuff like that. And I really like doing that stuff. It's a lot of fun. So,
Yeah. So does it like what's the questions that you most get asked when somebody comes into your tattoo parlor?
um, I get a lot of how long have you been tattooing? I get a lot of what's the longest session you've ever done? Like, what was the biggest tattoo you've done? Um, it's usually it. I think with a first timer, someone that I've only tattooed once, or the first time tattooing them, they always come with a whole plethora of questions. And then I think
Okay.
once they get a little bit more familiar with me, um, the questions really seem to be a little bit more direct about the work that I do and me as a person, and really focus more on art related questions as opposed to the kind of your standard, like, let me get to know this person, kind of
Right.
because I've had a lot of people that have come in and they tell me like, um not that I'm necessarily intimidating. Some people say I'm intimidating, but first time getting a tattoo, it's kind of an intimidating process. You walk in, you see all
Right.
these utensils that you're not familiar with. I'm putting on rubber gloves and or nitro gloves, not rubber, but you're putting on gloves like a surgeon. You got all these
Uh-huh.
needles and all these cartridges set out, all your like your pigment cups set out. You're setting up this machine, and then I use a couple different types of machines, but when people hear the buzz of a coil machine, they really get rattled. A
Right.
lot of newer tattoo or newer, I don't want to say newer artists, but a lot of the newer machines on the market are like rotaries, so they're really quiet. They have a really
Okay.
small tone. Yeah. But mine are old school coil machines. I mean, they make that buzzing sound that most tattoos, or people who know tattoos, that the sound that they make. So, they get a little intimidated by that. That's one of those weird things that, if you've ever been tattooed by an old school guy, you kind of know what to expect. But the second you hear that,
Yeah.
it rattles some people, I guess. So,
So
yeah.
you kind of mentioned about so what about like tattoo hygiene, and do you also do like tattoo removals at your place, or like how does it how does it work with the tattoo hygiene and stuff?
So, um, hygiene to me is probably one of the most important aspects of tattooing. You could be the best tattoo artist, and if you have poor hygiene, you really need to like make sure that you're keeping up with keeping everything clean. I mean, essentially, we are committing or not. We are committing ourselves to a service which is full of bloodborne pathogens and you know um all sorts of things, a lot of cross contamination. So it's very important. That cross contamination can cause someone's tattoo to you know not heal correctly. Just in my experience, and more recently too, which is really mind boggling. I've had several people come in with really bad beat up tattoos that clearly enough care wasn't taken care of.
Oh,
And staph infection can kill you. I mean, it can literally take your life. It could keep you in the hospital for months. So getting a staph infection in a tattoo just because someone doesn't know how to clean their utensils properly, I mean, that's the major part. Everything should be covered. Anything that you are touching should be covered. Um, hygiene is
very
it's kind of a
important.
big deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very important. it could literally, again, make or break a tattoo artist. If I walk into a shop and I don't feel that, there's even, because I walk into people's shops, I'm a pretty friendly artist. If I walk in and I see someone, let's just say, holding a sandwich with a nasty glove on, I'm gonna walk out. I'm gonna turn around and walk out.
Right.
There's just a lot of things. I actually left a shop that I was working at for maybe 2 weeks because there was someone being extremely uncleanly. They're
Oh,
touching body jewelry with nasty gloves. They were touching our case that had the body jewelry in it. We're talking about a glass case that you've now contaminated. I shouldn't have to follow somebody around with a thing of dermicide or maticide, spraying everything down that they touch. It should be
yeah.
common knowledge. Take your gloves off, right? So it's important. I can't stress that enough. It's very important.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, that clears like a lot of stuff up. Like, cause I always want to ask that when I go into a place, but you don't know if they're gonna tell you or not. Maybe it's like you have to observe them the first time you go in there.
Yeah. That's one reason why you'll get a lot of people that continuously go back to a specific artist. They understand the routine. They see the routine. Um, there's a couple things that like tattoo artists and their household items. Some of the most important items that you have is saran wrap. I mean, saran wrap everything, literally, because
Uh-huh.
as long as the surface that you're wrapping is clean, you wrap that surface, it's going to stay clean. And then, of course, you clean the surface even afterwards. But saran wrap everything on everything. I mean, mummify everything because
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's just like it's a household item, but it's like one item that we go through a lot because we're using it constantly. We're constantly wrapping everything and making sure that no blood or plasma or any other fluids, can actually touch these particular surfaces. Because most of the surfaces we work with are porous, especially like armrests, chairs, um, massage tables, things like that. All of that stuff needs to be properly cared for before you sit somebody down.
Right.
So, yep.
So,
Uh,
as like when you're tattooing a client, the first time and they ask you for a certain symbology or like to, um, how do you create a tattoo that resonates with what they want and still keep your individuality, I guess, in creating that piece of work for them?
sure. Again, it's another really good question. We kind of live well, I mean, most people, anyone who's listening to this, who will listen to this, will understand that we live in the age of the cell phone. I mean, we're recording this and I'm on my cell phone. So, um, but a lot of the people that contact us or even just come in from off the street that would like to make an appointment, the first thing they do is they hand us their phone. Um, and they're usually showing us some sort of design that has already been done thousands of times, literally thousands of times.
Yeah,
And they're actually, a lot of times what they're doing is they're showing us tattoos that have already been done by other artists. So unfortunately, sometimes you can't talk somebody out of it. No matter how good you are with the gift of gab, you're just not going to be able to tell someone like, look, this is somebody else's tattoo. I don't want to do this on you.
uh-huh.
Um, it really is. It's kind of a weird time to be a tattoo artist, especially when it comes to like walk-ins and smaller tattoos. Those seem to be the tattoos that people just don't want to budge on. It's the little cross behind the ear with a little heart in it. You know what I mean? The people are really stuck on it. Um, Pinterest is another one, and I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, I've had clients that have come in and they've shown me a design on Pinterest, and I'm like, well, do you want to switch it up a little bit? And they're like, no, I really like this. Like, can we just do it like this? And, you
Oh,
just kind
wow.
of, um, the things that I really enjoy doing. I was a flash artist. That's how I got my start. So I don't mind necessarily doing work that is, um, similar to flash. But the tattoos that I really like to do, especially when it comes to like symbolism, is it every artist has their way of shading. a certain way of shading or certain colors that they use. Um, I always like to use a lot of earthy tones and then do like kind of like a back highlight with like a blue or a pink or something like that. So browns and yellows with kind of like an aqua blue. Um, or like a bright green, something that really pops off the skin next to like more earthy tones.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of something that I do. If I'm able to do a piece that I want to do, that's usually how I would do it. Um, but a lot of people, when you find clients that are like, you can do whatever you want, like just go ahead and have fun. Those usually when you have the best tattoos. So that's what I try to do. That's what I look for. Yeah.
It's really interesting with the shading and everything that you're talking about. I mean, I didn't really think like, certain tattoo artists have certain styles of shading with the colors. I just figured, they just do whatever the client asks for with the colors.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's not necessarily the color. It's just there are, I mean, I could go on for this for quite a long time, but I mean, there are many different ways to shade a tattoo. You have whip shade, you have pull shading, you have really saturated, you're using like little tiny circles and really like stretching the skin to get a super saturated color. You have like a lot of people are using like liners now. And what they're doing is they're doing almost like a stipple shade.
Oh,
Um, so, some of these tattoos that are really, really, really like just have such an insane amount of detail, it's all stippling. If you look close, if you look at it, um, one of the guys I really like is Matt Murray. Um, and he does really dark, creepy stuff. It's all very like I think he's from Salem. So like all of his
oh,
work is like various black cats, witches, pumpkins, stuff like that. Really, really
yeah.
creepy stuff, all really indicative of like Halloween culture and witch culture. But he just has this style where everything is really saturated in certain spots, but then all of his detail is with like whip shading. And there's so much like detail in it. And like, I really like his work. There's the other thing is like how someone draws something. There's another artist that I it's funny, I actually just he's had a video or something on Instagram of him sketching up a skull. And the way that he does his skulls, I've never seen anyone draw skulls like him, and I love it. It's so unique. They're kind of like, they almost look like they're squished in a little bit, and they're kind of elongated, and their jawline is like kind of elongated as well. But it's style wise, yeah, stylistically, it's really, really unique. And I just love the way he does them. Um, so you can definitely like tell certain artists from others once you know their work. It takes a little while, but that's another thing is people kind of recognize someone's work and they're like, oh yeah, that's so and so. I can tell by the way that he does this particular thing. So it's not just by shading, but it's in um the final piece. It's everything. It's line weight, shading, how they layer their colors. Yeah. So
Does
there's a lot.
style,
There's so much.
there's so much.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we could literally sit here and do 5 podcasts just on style. It's really that, yeah, it's really that in depth. So
Does your style of art that you've always had, does it resonate into your tattoo art mostly?
so I try to.
Uh,
Um Basically for me, again, being more traditional, you don't really traditional tattoos, they have a light source, but it's not a light source. It's very hard to describe. Um but with my actual artwork, like my paintings, when I do my oil paintings and stuff, it's very, very different from what I'm tattooing. Um,
okay.
it's the oil paintings are much feel they do border a little bit more on try to do them a little bit more realistic than say my tattoos, but it varies. I would probably say that if I could do more of my paintings as tattoos, I would really enjoy to do that.
Yeah,
Um, but I try because to paint and to tattoo, they really wash each other's hands. It's really they really complement each other. So the more you paint and the more you tattoo, like you kind of see things that you can do with the painting, and you're like, oh, if I add this little thing here, or if you're learning color theory and color mixing with oil painting, that can also transfer over into tattooing. Um, and the tricks that you can do with tattooing, you can also do with oil paints. I mean, they really do complement each other very well. As far as style, I think they're two completely different worlds. What I'm trying to do with my oil paintings is kind of create its own little world organically. And a lot of the tattoos I do is like, here's a skull with a flower and this, you know what I mean?
yeah,
I like the darker stuff. I really like creepy stuff. That is more what I would love to do. And I have. I mean, I can do that stuff, but um, it takes a very particular person to want to get that kind of tattoo. Which is why my painting is the way that it is, because it allows me to get out a lot of the darker imagery that I can't do in tattooing.
and your own style, like that's not requested by the client. You can kind of like open your horizons more that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
How do you connect with the community? You obviously connect with the community with your tattooing skills. What are all the ways that you find that you're connecting with the community so you can stay connected and um, maybe increase your clientele or something?
I mean, I try to stay relevant on social media. I'm not I'm not great with social media. I'm a pretty old school guy. I didn't even have I think I had MySpace like back in the day, but then like I didn't even have like a Facebook until like maybe 2015, 2016,
Okay,
somewhere around there. I mean, like I just didn't have it. Like I didn't
yeah, I
want it. I didn't
understand.
care. Um, and then even at that time, like I didn't care about sharing my artwork. Like it wasn't about that. But in
It's
order for me
more
to
like a
connect
private
with
thing almost.
it used to be. You used to have to actually do your footwork to find an artist that you liked, right? Like you would
Yeah,
have to go into a shop and actually look at someone's portfolio. Now
yeah,
you could literally go online, punch in hashtag tattoos and start scrolling, and doom scrolling through millions and millions and millions of tattoos and start finding people. So it has its balances. But the way that I try to connect with people is I just try to be a humble guy. I try to remain humble. I can still learn new things with tattooing, just like I can still learn new things with painting. I like to sponge. I like to find other artists and pick their brain, and talk to them about it. I'm the one tattoo artist that will walk into a shop and be like, "Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, this stuff's fucking awesome." Like this is like it just I would rather see the art community, especially tattoos. No matter how far tattoos have come, there's still negative connotation in our society, especially when you start kind of looking the way that I do. But I want to build up a better rapport with not just the artists but the people. Um, I am one of those people that like I really want people to just leave me alone, and just kind of let me do my thing.
yeah.
But at the
When
same
when
time,
I paint,
if I
it
can
could
be
be like
kind of like a walking force for people to, what's that?
when I paint, like I usually like paint like alone or with like a few people, but not like in front of a lot of people. Like I feel like my whole process is like messed up or something? Like,
It should, but see, you shouldn't feel that way. I mean, like
yeah,
tattooing kind of helps with that. Because you always have people, you have a client watching you, even if they don't, I've had people literally bring their entire family to watch one person get tattooed. Like, okay, mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa, all to watch little Timmy get his first tattoo at age 18. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
you have eyes on you. So it was daunting the first couple tattoos that I did for sure. It was like, I'm doing this, and here's a bunch of guys that have been tattooing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, looking over my shoulder, critiquing what I'm doing. Like, it can be very daunting, but
was it
you kind of learn to
helpful,
shake
like
those
the
nerves away.
constructive criticism? Was it helpful?
Absolutely. I still want constructive criticism. I'm also not afraid to ask my fellow artists, painters and tattoo artists alike. Like, if there's something I'm struggling with, I'm going to reach out and be like, hey, like, what can I do to achieve this better? What mag should I use to get more of this kind of texture, or what color would look better with this? Or I think that's the thing is tattooing used to be really a really gatekeeping. I think in some ways it still is. There's a couple things that I would like to say, and that is, we live in a time where you can't badmouth anyone, right? You can't badmouth somebody's artwork.
Yeah,
But tattoos are permanent. We should absolutely be badmouthing people who are fucking people up, because it's permanent.
right.
Um, there's this like culture of like, you can't you can't say something negative to somebody. Um, if I did something kind of whack, I want someone to tell me, like, yo, look, dude, look at these lines. Like, these lines are not great. You should clean them up. Or this it's a permanent thing. And the gatekeeping community doesn't necessarily need to be gatekeeping tattooing, but secrets used to be for tattooers by tattooers, only passed down to their apprentices. And now you can literally go on YouTube and buy tattoo equipment from Amazon, and all of a sudden you're a tattoo artist. So it's just like,
But
there's sometimes I'll see a tattoo and I would love to scream at the person, like, what the fuck are you doing? But you can't, it's just, you can't, because you're going to
yeah,
hurt feces, and then, you're going to get called a bad guy, and yada, yada, yada. So I just leave it to the other people to deal with it. Um, Again, that's kind of part of being humble, is like, I've taken my licks. I know what I'm capable of, and I try not to overstep my boundaries. There's a lot of people out there who want the fame, because tattoo artists are kind of fame, like local fame. I don't know how to
yeah,
describe it. It's weird.
something like
It's
that. Like just like
yeah,
artists have a certain
yeah,
um
but
name for the in the community. What are the main tools that you use? How many tools are there that you main that you use on the regular? I mean, I guess you probably have different tools for different things.
yeah, for sure. So needle groupings. I mean, that's one of the important ones, is knowing your needle groupings, knowing what needles you're going to need for what task. I've gotten to the point where sometimes I'll use 4 different groupings on one tattoo.
Oh, okay.
One small shader, or one small round shader for really tight areas, a large mag shader for really big areas. Usually a liner, because, like, again, traditional tattooing, I'm pretty much ingrained with big, big solid lines around everything. I'm trying to break that habit, but um, I mean, like, again, cleanliness. So a lot of products to keep everything. You got sticky barriers that you could put on, like, your power supply, clipcord covers, dental bibs. Everything needs to be one-time use only, except for like steel tubes. I still use stainless steel tubes. They need to be scrubbed down with Alkanox and some other like cleaning solutions. They need to be packaged dry, sterilized, like autoclave sterilization. Um, Paper towels is another big one. I mean, like that's like one of those household items that like a tattoo artist, we just live with paper towels, like we might as well have stock in paper towels. It would probably be better. We probably all make a killing on it.
Yeah.
But tattoo machines, needles, obviously you need a power supply, clip cord, foot switch. Now you actually have like tattoos that can run off Wi-Fi, tattoo machines that can run off Wi-Fi,
Oh,
wireless batteries, like
okay.
it's come really far. You used to kind of be situated in one area and you've had your clip cord and if your clip cord only reached 5 feet, well, you're only going 5 feet away. So, you either had to
It's
move all of your stuff or move
different.
the client towards you. Now, you can have your tattoo machine 20 feet away from your client and have it still running. I don't know why you would ever want to do that, but you could if you so chose, if you needed to move away for some reason.
What
But
advice would you give to like somebody who's just starting? What would be the main advice you would give them?
for someone just starting out getting tattoos
You
or
know, who's
wanting to be
starting
a tattoo artist?
to other people?
Um, well, the first bit of advice I would give you is don't start tattooing people. Get a proper apprenticeship.
Uh-huh.
Um, draw, draw a lot.
Okay.
Um, draw, 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 draw. Because a lot of those fundamentals that you'll learn with drawing, you'll be able to take with you into the tattoo realm. Um,
Okay.
a lot of tattooing is really a lot of illustrative work. So the more you draw, the better off you are. And that also goes back to the style thing. You kind of learn a style that fits the type of work that you're going to want to do. Um, find a reputable shop and talk to them, hang around for a little while, see what's possible about getting an apprenticeship and get an apprenticeship. You know, it's worth the wait. Trust me. Um,
Uh-huh.
this industry has been through the ringer, and it's still has its fights ahead of it. But you know, getting a machine off Amazon and thinking that you're going to be some tattoo artist because you're you know drilling away on your friends and scarring them up. I mean, like that's probably the worst way to start. Um, it's a very serious thing. So learn from the people that know how to do it. They don't necessarily have to be the best tattoo artist in the world, but as long as you can lay a solid tattoo and you have the foundations of tattooing down, chances are you'll be able to, you know, do it yourself as long as, the person's teaching you the right way. You'll only be as good as your teacher. So if your teacher is lacking,
Uh-huh.
and they're just giving you a bunch of things to do on the side, um, you may not actually want to do it, or you may not be very good at it. So yeah.
Okay. What's the most memorable experience of you giving a tattoo to someone?
Um, Actually, that was more recently, and I've had a couple. Because I had a couple.
How about 3 minutes because I'm not using the pro Zoom, so I just wanted
Sure.
to let you
Okay.
know that. So I thank you so
So
much for being on this 360 Art Drops YouTube
yeah,
channel with me,
absolutely.
and that
Um,
you can let your friends know to subscribe or to let
awesome. Yeah,
them
for
know
sure.
that you're here. But yeah, go ahead.
So I tattooed a 78-year-old lady who got her first and only tattoo. So
Oh
78 years
wow,
old. Yeah.
that's
So that
insane.
just goes to show you that it's never too late. Everyone always says, "Oh, I'm too old for that." No, you're not. 78 years old.
Wow.
Um, and then the other one was I did 16 tattoos in one day. They were small, but it was a marathon, and basically it was a company that was doing like a team building exercise, and they all got tattoos of the logo
Oh,
for the company that they work for. So it was really cool. 16 in one day. Trust me, I felt really, really, really beat after that day, but it was
some
it was a cool
connection.
experience. So yeah,
That's so
but
nice.
yeah,
Thank So thank you so much again for everything, for taking the time to be here.
Yeah,
And
no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, I just and I learned a lot from you by just talking to you today.
Yeah, I hope hope my words can resonate with some people out there for sure.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do this again. Like
Yeah, we can
next
definitely
time.
maybe chat a little bit more about painting or something. Yeah, I'm always down. I mean,
Okay.
so
Thank you,
cool.
JR.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You take care of yourself.
Yep. You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.